Hey guys, how's it going? It's Talamic here with D&B Academy, and today I want to talk about injecting energy into our drum beats. And so I'll do this in quite a sort of exaggerated way, but the principles will apply, regardless of like how close your drums are to where you want them to be. So I've got a basic drum beat here, which is obviously, if we're going for something that's a little bit more rolling, is going to be lacking some energy, and we'll look at how we build that up. So I've got a shaker here from the 174 sample pack, and then I've got a kick and a couple of snares, again from my sort of 174 samples that I did a little while ago. All of this is D&B Academy. Right, so the first thing I would think of when I'm looking at my drums, let's just group our snare together as well and just colour everything for my own sake. And just for the record as well, we've got no bus processing, no processing on any individual channels. The only thing that we've got is a little bit of drum reverb, just from Valhalla Room. I'll just solo that quickly, just to give it a little bit of space. So the way that I view energy within music is that generally it's top end focused. And so if we start adding those higher layers into our music, we'll generally get what we would perceive as energy. This isn't an exhaustive tip, because quite often you can get very low end focused tunes or elements that carry a lot of energy within a tune. But particularly in this kind of instance, I would say that the focus is usually on the top end. So there's a couple of easier things that we can do. One is that if we start adding ghost snares, so we're not adding any top end stuff just yet, but we're filling in those gaps, and so there's less space between the elements. Everything feels a little bit faster and it helps carry things forwards a little bit more. So if I look at our snares, for example, here, and we add some ghost snares, what I mean by the term ghost snare is essentially quieter snare hits that are occurring between our main 2 and 4 beat, and the 2 and 4 beat are obviously just what we've got at the moment. 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. Right, I realised I was out of time to start with. Got there in the end. So if I take, this element for example, this snare, let's adjust the grid. There we go. And do something like this. Would help if I had everything soloed. And we bring the volume down on those. Already we've got more motion going there. We can adjust the volume on these, so let's maybe turn the second one down a little bit. And maybe we even copy that over to the end there. Already, if we can mute that, you can kind of feel that we're starting to already make some progress. If we look at some other kind of elements within here, so looking at these drums, I've got weakness tops, for example, which is all high-end focused, rapid moving loops and stuff. If I just drag that in, bring that down a little bit. And this one is actually working twofold. So we're getting that kind of more high-end elements within our drum bus, but we're also getting more rapid. There's some kind of percussive stuff in there. Again, let's maybe look at adding some other layers. So I tend to stack my drums. Some people will do this manually, and so they'll just add hi-hat elements. So if we take a look at what that might look like quickly, let's find a hat in here. There's probably some in here, right? So for example, taking this and adding this hat on these offbeats. Make sure I'm putting it in the right place. There we go. between our shaker. So if I move that up so we can see where it sits relative to our main shaker, doing something like this. And you could obviously manually velocity shape these as well. And balanced together, you're always going to want that offbeat element to be a little bit quieter than the element happening on your main beats. But so again, if I mute the additional elements, this is what we started with. But we can, as I said, we can look at adding some of these from loops instead of just programming it ourselves. So I like a couple of elements from this. One, the main one actually that we'll take, we'll just, if we take the shuffle from this, so you can actually use breaks, full break loops, and just cut elements from them. To maybe see if there's any other top loops in here. So something like this could work quite well. Cool, so I think we're beginning to get there now. I'm just going to group all of the higher stuff together, and I'm actually going to throw the ghost snares in there as well. Just group that, call this tops. And for the sake of speed, we're just going to high pass this. How high you high pass it depends, one, on the elements, and two, on the type of tune that you're going for and how kind of raw you want the drum sound. But for me that works quite well. And just call this kick. Obviously, kick spelled right. There we go. Obviously you would go in and individually process your kick and snare, and one thing that I'll say now is that how good your drums are is entirely dependent on sample choice and sample source. If you're working with samples that aren't very good, you know, like stock Ableton samples and that kind of thing, it's not going to work. You're not going to end up with a good end result. If you're working with samples that from the get-go sound good and don't need much processing and work, you're just making life easier for yourself. So just going to add a glue compressor on, and this is where some of the magic happens. I'm going to turn the threshold down until we're hitting, kind of peaking around -5 dB of gain reduction. I'm going to turn the soft clip on. I'm going to turn up until the soft clip is kind of semi-regularly lighting. And then I'm going to come in and just sort of evenly balance my layers. Go back and just make any adjustments. One thing to note as well is that the balance of your kick, your snare and your tops will always depend, one, on you as an artist and how you like your drums to sound, and also the type of tune that you're working with. Sometimes I'll find that the tops will be really bright and really loud if I'm working on like more dancehall stuff, for example. Then they have like really shiny like rides and everything else that tend to be quite prominent. If I'm working on something that's much more stripped back, like very kind of minimal liquid stuff, I might find the tops take more of a backseat. But for now, this is working quite well. And even with that processing, if I just ABR new additional elements, I mean, even with that processing, because everything's much more upfront, it already sounds way louder, but with that constant motion now. And you can start adding in other elements as well. I find open hats are a good one to fill some of those spaces. You don't want to go too crazy with this, but there's that fine balance. If you're unsure if you've gone too far, start muting some elements and see how it sits. There's also, if you're using things like Amon breaks that are quite splashy, and often a lot of Amon samples are very compressed as well, they can work really well for like filling gaps and adding that kind of brightness. But yeah, there you go. Any questions, let us know, and I'll see you in the next one.